Okay, let's see what we have for drafting 131 today, February the 1st. Drafting 131. All right, so we're going to talk about blocks and how to create blocks in AutoCAD. I'm going to open the project here. 131, there we go. And drawing D. All right, so what are blocks? Well, we are familiar with blocks in that some of the objects that we find in the tool palettes, view tool palettes, are blocks, right? And so remember that. Let's go to architecture, for example, where we have some recognizable objects. If I bring this object here, that is a block, right? It's a block that is representing a tree. I can bring in this other one, and that's a block that is representing a car. So blocks are objects that have been pre-drawn and that we can reuse, right? Typically, we'll have these drawings in a place called the block library. And the block library is just a folder that can be placed locally in your computer, or it could be a folder that is placed in a network computer that you can access through a network. And so typically in a company, you will have a block library with objects that are used all the time in that particular company. And then they're located in a folder in a particular server. That's what blocks are, right? And so blocks are very similar to XREFs in that we can insert them into a drawing. But as you remember, the difference between a block and an XREF is that the blocks become part of the drawing. Once I insert the block here, the block is in the drawing. If I email this drawing to somebody, then the block will be there. So it's not like the XREF that needs to have a path, and that path needs to be always recognized by the program. And then if I want to transmit a file that has XREF, I need to use eTransmit. In this case, I don't have to do that. The blocks are part of the drawing, right? And that's the concept of the block. Let's see if there is anything else that we need to say about block. It says there, a block is a collection of objects that are combined into a single name object. Yes. And so all the blocks are a collection of lines, maybe also text, and they're combined into one object. So for example, if I create 4 lines or 3 lines, now I could select them, they're separate objects, but I could make them a block and then it'll become just one object like that. So that's also important to know when talking about blocks, are a collection of objects that are combined into a single object. Some of blocks are realistic representation of objects, Some blocks are symbols, right? And some blocks, for example, could be something like the title block. That's a block that we create and we reuse uh, in all the projects. So that's the concept. So how do we create blocks? Well, there are several ways to create blocks. Remember, we already talked about that in our previous class. We are going to emphasize that again. We can create blocks by creating an object. So let me create a circle, and then I don't know how big the circle is. Let's make it 4 feet, and then we'll create 18 by 18. Let's offset by 2. That's better. And maybe we say that this is a chair, and that's and I'm going to activate the O snaps here for quadrant. And so maybe that's a chair, and that is, let's make this 24. And now maybe I move this in by 4 inches or so, and then we're going to array this object, right? We're going to do a polar array. Select that, enter, and then center. And let's see how many items do we want. There are 6 chairs. That's fine. Let's leave 6 chairs, okay? And so we got these elements and then this other element. And we could create a block out of these, all of these objects, right? And so the easiest way to create a block, or the fastest way, I'll say, if I'm working on a project and I want to join a group of objects so that I can move them as one, I can do this. I can select them, right click, clipboard, copy with base point. And now I can do right click, clipboard, paste as a block. And that's the first way to create a block, is just pasting as a block. Okay, select paste as a block, and there. And now we have a block, right? This block has a base point that I selected on the center. And if I click on any of the elements of the block, it's one object. See, it's all one object. So that's a good thing to do. These are separate objects, and that's one object. So that's the first way to create a block. One of the problems with this block is that if I go to the properties, then the name of the block is a name generated by the computer, right? So it's hard to understand what that is. So let's do that again. So I'm going to select the objects, right click, clipboard, copy with base point. It's important we created a block to copy with the base point. And now the base point is going to be that. Now we do, again, the same thing. Right click, clipboard, paste as a block. And now that's the block, right? So very easy to do. Now, when creating a block like this, remember the name of the block becomes a computer-generated name, but we can use the tool called rename. In AutoCAD, we have this tool called rename, and now I can select to rename blocks. I don't remember the name of the block, but I imagine it's this because that's the only computer-generated name. And I'm going to call it now 48-inch table with chairs. Click OK. Um, invalid old name. I don't know. Oh, that's the old name. Sorry. The old name is that. The new name is this. Invalid new name. There's something wrong. Maybe 48. Yeah. And so now if we can click on the object and then go to properties, then we see the name of the object there. So block and rename, right? When creating copy to clipboard or not, you can just leave the block like that if you don't mind that the name of the block is different. And so in this particular case, when you're creating a layout for a building like this, there will be some objects here that you can make blocks and then just copy them. The advantage of having a block is this. I'm going to copy this block here. And if I modify one, all of the objects that make up the block will modify. Remember, this is not a block. This is a block, and this is a copy of the block. If I click on this object, it's again the same block. It's exactly the same. Now, let's do this, let's do the array tool, right? I'm going to array and done, right? So I just created a lot of them with the array tool. Maybe you're doing a restaurant, so that's that. Make sure it's 6 feet apart, right? Nope, not quite. So I need to modify the properties, columns, row spacing, column spacing. Let's do 18 and 18 feet, sorry. And now it's better. Great. And so now we have that. What if one of the things that we can do with blocks is this. I can select that. Because it's an array, it creates a group. So I just took out the group by exploding. And now if I open this block, I can edit the block by going to block editor, or I can edit the block by selecting edit block in place. These are the two options to edit blocks. And so what happens if I select block editor? It opens the block, just one of them, and is completely isolated. And we are on this AutoCAD space called block editor. And so I can do that. And so, for example, I could select this object and then maybe I said there are too many chairs. We're gonna do one. I'm gonna delete this. And we're gonna do only 5. So I'm gonna select that, and I'm gonna do array, polar, select the center, and we're gonna do items. And this time we do 5. All right, so we got only 5 chairs, and enter. And now I can do close block editor. Upon closing, I'm gonna be asked if I want to save. And now all the tables, see, have changed. And that's what we can do with blocks. We can insert one element and then copy it. And then if I modify one of them, then all of the elements that are of the same block, they will change. So we call these the block reference, and these ones the block instances. Right? And so that's one of the advantages of using blocks, is that you can edit all of them at the same time if they have the same name. Now, when we create blocks, another thing that is important for us to understand, um, when we edit blocks, we can actually, let me backtrack here. Let's edit blocks. If I were to edit this block by selecting edit in place, what does it do? Well, it's going to open the block, but within the context of the drawing. And see, there's a drawing here. I can see the drawing there, and I can see the block. I don't see the other parts of the other copies because I'm going to edit the reference. But but I can see the drawing that I'm working on. And so it's important sometimes to edit the block with reference to the space that I'm in. One of the things I wanted to show you is that, for example, if I change, let me also get rid of that. Yeah, now is not an array. If I change the layer where I'm having that block, that, sorry, let me select layers that are not XREFs. And now I will only see those. Maybe I put that object in that layer. It's not the 0 layer, right? And save changes. Now you can see that that object changes everywhere once again. Now, what happens if I place this is in the 0 layer? What if I have a layer that's called furniture? And we're going to create a new layer called furniture. And in that layer, I'm going to give it a color like that. And so, of course, I'm going to put this object in that layer, right? So see what happens. All the lines that were white, or the elements that were white, they change to the layer color. Only the object that was not white doesn't change color. And the reason for that is that that I am that I actually, when I created the block, this object was not placed in the 0 layer. Let me open any of them. Block editor, and see this object is not on the 0 layer. It's in a different layer. So in order for the objects to take the properties of the layer that I assign them to, the block elements need to be on the 0 layer. If I create all the elements on the 0 layer and I say close it and save the changes, now all of the elements are in the same properties. And so when you create a block, it's very important that you create that block, that all the elements that are part of that block are created while in the 0 layer. In that way, once the block is created, then the objects can take the properties of the layer that you decide to use. Right? Otherwise, it will not happen. So other ways to create blocks are, let me copy this here and I'm going to modify. In order for us to unblock an object, what I can do is use the explode tool, right? The explode tool is up here. Or I can just type X. What that tool is going to do is going to separate all the objects into the original components. So I'm going to do explode, click enter, and now I have different objects. I can actually explode this rectangle too. And now it's just lines. Let's see. Yeah, all lines. And so this is not a block anymore. So I wanted to do that because I am going to modify this and create a different block, offset by 1 foot. And so now this is a 3-foot door table, sorry. And I'm going to move this object to here and then move again by 6 inches. Delete that. And now we're going to do a 4-chair array. And so now we have a smaller table. So now let's create this block with a different tool. So the other way that I have to create a block will be by going to Insert and then Create Block, right? And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to select Insert, Create Block, and now this dialog box comes into place. And then I can enter a name for the block. And so 3-foot chair. And I cannot put that symbol there. So maybe with 3-foot table with 4 chairs. Right, and that's the name of the block. Now I am going to specify the base point by picking it, that, and then I'm going to select the objects, all of them, and that's it. Convert to a block, pick point is fine, and I just click OK. And then it says here, I cannot have that. And so we're going to do OK. And so this is a block now. So see, I did insert, create block, and went from there, right? Let's do that again. Insert, create block, name, pick point for the base point, select the objects, enter, and OK. And so now that's it. That's a different block. Right-click properties is a block reference, and the name is 3-foot table with chairs. Because it's on the 0 layer, everything is on the 0 layer, I can select it and place the block into the furniture layer, and all the elements change accordingly. So that's the other way to create a block. I can do that. Now, one of the things that I have that we can also do is when we have, say that I bring another block here, maybe bring back the car. And now we have multiple blocks here. One of the things I can do is to save, if I want to save these blocks to a library, one by one, then what I can do is apply this tool called insert and then pull down, write a block. What the write a block is going to do is going to allow me to select one block or several blocks and save them to a particular folder. And so I can save them individually. For example, select block, and then I can select the objects, right? And then save them to this particular library. And so that's the process of writing a block. So I have created blocks, but I haven't saved them to the library. So I can do that. I can select insert, down, write a block, And then I'm going to select the block I want to write and table with chairs. And I'm going to save it to a particular um, dialog box, right? To a particular location. This is the dialog box. And so I click here, go to my documents, select the class, for example, and maybe I have a folder in the class called block library. And save and okay. So now this not only is in this drawing, but it's also saved in that library. And I could now insert that. Let's save this also to that library. Go to write a block, select block, and that's called the vehicle. And block library, DRFT131, same folder, click OK. And I just saved that to the library. So I can do that with all the blocks I have. And that process is called writing the block. And that's how you save blocks to the library, okay? You can do that when you create a block, or you can do it at any time. And now if I wanted to insert the block, all I do is select insert and then block. Insert, sorry, and then block. And these are the blocks that are already in my drawing. But I can go to blocks from libraries, and then I can browse on this dialog box for the library, right? And so I'm going to go to documents and then 131 block library, and I see the blocks that I just saved there. So I could select them and insert them, right? Once again, the process to insert the block in the drawing will be to go to insert, insert, and then either blocks that are not here, or recent blocks, favorite blocks, or blocks from libraries. If I select that, then this dialog box comes up and I can insert more from here. And so that's that. And then there is another way to create a block. And it's actually a very simple process. I could insert any drawing as a block. So I can select insert block and insert blocks from library. And I actually can select any drawing, for example, this, and insert it as a block. And so once the drawing comes into the space, then it is a block. And so in reality then, that's another way of creating a block, is by inserting the drawing as a block. Okay? Any drawing can be inserted as a block. And this is important. We'll talk about how and why that is important next class, okay? Insert, blocks from library. And even if the object is not a block already, I can insert it as a block and it will behave as a block. So that's very powerful for us. Okay, so one of the last things that I wanted to talk about in regards to blocks is that you cannot delete blocks from the library, from the drawing, although you can delete them like this. The block reference is still here. For example, if I select insert, I can see all the blocks that are in the drawing, and I can just bring them back here, right? And what we mean by this is that the block reference is never deleted from the drawing. Even though I delete the instances, the block reference is not. The only way for us to get rid of the block references is by using, so that this is empty, is by using the purge tool, right? So PURGE is the purge tool. And so if I click purge, then I can select blocks, and I can select any blocks that I want to get rid completely. So I can say, okay, I want all the blocks to go. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to purge checked items, purge all checked items, and now the blocks are gone. Let's delete those two. Purge checked items, purge this item, and purge this. So now the last one. And there's still one more there. And the blocks are gone. So now if I go back to insert and blocks, there are only two blocks here that are part of this drawing. There's got to be a view name here in the layout, and the leader is the one that I'm using in my dimensions. So because these two blocks are in use, I cannot delete them, but the other ones are gone. And so the only real way to delete a block is to use the purge tool. Okay, so you use purge and you can delete a block. Now, not only blocks, you can delete layers, you can delete other things, right? As long as they're not in use. If the objects are in use, then you are not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to purge them, all right? So let me double check here one thing. And blocks about blocks inserted in a block about the blocks palette and lecture blocks. All right, so we know that there are some blocks here in the tool palettes, right? We just saw that. And if we right click at the bottom, we see all the tool palettes that there are in this palette. And so there are many blocks here, right? And so we've got architectural, mechanical, structural, all of them. But we can also find blocks in AutoCAD, remember, in the tool palettes, right? If I go here in the design center, so go view and then design center. And now I can open any of these drawings, and these drawings may have blocks. For example, the home space planner. If I go to blocks, then all of these objects are blocks in that drawing. Home space planner. Now, this is very important. I could make these blocks be part of the tool palette. And I can do that just by clicking on top of the blocks here and then create tool palette. And so I'm going to do that. So let's kind of backtrack again. If I have a drawing with blocks, I could locate that drawing using the design center. Just as I am locating this drawing here called Space Planner, then I select blocks, then I right click on blocks and I say create tool palette. And so as soon as I do that, then there's going to be a tool palette here for Space Planner. So I'm going to do that, create tool palette. It's working, see? And now we have one there. So let's see where it is. Home Space Planner. That's the one I just created. And so if I open that tab, you see all of the blocks here. Now, what's the advantage of having the blocks in the tool palette? Well, the advantage is that you can just drag and drop them, right? Very easy to work with. where is the design center? You gotta go to the design center and find drawing and then find the blocks, right? Now, can we do that with other objects in the design center? Let's see. I can add the favorites, to favorites. Let's open this home space planner layers. There are no layers here. It's just one layer, so I can do that. But the blocks I can, right? So I can just bring those into the tool palette and then work from there. Easier to do that. And that's it for today. Thank you very much. If you have any questions now, let me know. Other than that, if you don't have any questions, I'll see you next time. All right. Thank you, guys. Until next.
Hey Armando, I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
I just kind of wanted to go over my last drawing. I couldn't really see what you wrote on it. The red kind of like faded away, so I didn't know what was going on.
Oh, let me see. We'll see what that is. How did I send you that? Through Canvas?
Yeah, let me see if I could find it.
Okay, here it is. I got it.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So this is too light. I don't see the furniture at all.
Yeah, I know. I see it in mine, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, maybe the color is too light when the CTV in the CTV.
Yeah.
And so maybe you want to make that color darker. So you go to the CTV.
Yeah, it like didn't show up at all in yours. Like
No.
it showed up on mine, which is kind of weird.
So maybe, yeah, maybe make it a different color that is going to print better.
Okay.
Um, Typically in the CTV that I use, maybe make it blue or something like that. Then line weights, yeah, to light. Annotations, you're missing the view title here,
Oh, okay.
right? The view title, it says floor plan scale, view
Yeah.
one. Okay, that's missing. And then the dimensions are not properly set up. You should not have dimensions like that. Two things. The extension lines are too small, and then the numbers should be horizontal, not fractional. You remember how to do that?
Um, Not really.
Okay, so you go to your dimension style. And then on the text, make sure, sorry, units, make sure that the fraction format is not stuck.
Okay.
And then on symbols and arrows, make sure that the arrow size is 3/32 minimum.
Okay.
Sometimes it is done in architecture, even 1/16 or 1/8. But 3/32 is fine. And in that way, it would show better than that. And that's it. Line weights, annotations, and dimensions.
Okay, but I must have used the wrong CTB because the line weights should have been a little different, but that's okay.
All right, go for the next one.
Yeah. And the next one, is it okay if I show you my progress and
Sure.
you analyze it for me?
Mm-hmm. Can you share it?
Yeah, sharing it. It's this one. Did you want us to completely get rid of this whole middle section?
I don't see it.
Oh. Uh, is it not sharing still?
No, maybe stop and share again. Yeah, now I see it. Yeah, we don't need that center section.
Okay, so we're getting rid of this center
Yeah,
section.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then we're supposed to redo this area
We did
too as
that
well?
for a conference center, for conference office.
Okay. And then for cabinets that were on the edge right here at the beginning, or the first drawing,
No, they're
should
not
I
there
put
anymore.
no? Should I put them within the drawing?
No, no, we don't need that. We just need desks,
Okay.
equal number of desks on both sides, and then the conference room and the small room there.
Okay.
Make
All
sure that
right. That
it's
makes.
as close as possible to equal both rooms. And you don't need the CAD lab anymore because that CAD lab is actually this lab here. OE12 is the CAD lab. So we don't need the separate drawing on the right for the CAD lab where it says CAD lab.
Oh, okay.
So OE12 is that CAD lab, so you don't need that. So the only rooms that we have are OE16, OE4, and OE12.
Okay.
So the drawing that you have there on the right should not be there because that's the same as OE12. It's just showing a different layout that used to be, but so we don't need that anymore.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I just copied the first drawing and then put it
Yeah.
on here, and
All right.
it was just. But yeah, I think that about covers it. Oh, and I remember you sending an email about internships. Is there
Me?
somebody I should
Not me.
contact?
I didn't,
Oh,
but
okay.
there is a, I think there is something on the homepage here, right?
I can't see your
At the
screen.
top of the
Okay.
homepage, there should be a career center support.
Oh, yeah, that's probably what I saw.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you talk to them, you can talk to them, calling them, or going to their meetings. I don't remember what they have here. Let's see. Oh, you can send an email. Yeah, send them an email saying you want information about internships.
Okay.
Christina McGuire.
Yeah. Yeah, that's her. Okay, cool. Thanks, Armando. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.